And I really started in this with no money.
Hello, everybody. It's 𝐿𝐭𝐻 𝐿𝐿𝐻, host of the Wheelbarrow Properties Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, it's a very special day for me and for you because we got another baby, right?
You got another baby.
Not me, you, boy. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, it's been an awesome weekend. I mean, Jake's wife gave birth to an amazing baby little boy. And as you know, you would know it, my partner's been grinding 24/7, spending time in the NICU unit. Baby's doing really well. Colton is his name. He just looks awesome. So we're up to 9 kids. I've got 6. Jake's got 3. I'm hoping he has a few more.
I'm coming for you, baby. I'm coming for you.
We need 11. That's what we're looking for, man. You know, it's awesome. I just want to say congratulations. I want to say, you know, Whitney's she's just an amazing woman. There's not much more I can say. I'm just really happy, and it's gonna be awesome, dude. Congratulations.
G-Dad, I appreciate the shout out. We have a really nice show today. Really excited about this. We have someone that Northeasterner coming down to the promised land. So we're excited to share that information as well. So our guest today is a leading real estate expert with over 25 years experience. She is the founder and managing partner of the fast-growing multifamily private equity investment firm 4M Capital. So without further ado, please welcome Maureen Miles.
Hey, thanks
Maureen,
for
how you
having me,
doing?
guys. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Hey, it is our pleasure. And we want to hear about your journey. Obviously, I know you're saying before the show you moved in the last 2 years, but 25 years in real estate. Tell us how you got started. Let's get a little background on you before we really dive into this.
Yeah, so real estate has kind of always been, and I've been in some form of it in my entire life. I'd say my career was in IT. I was a network engineer for most of my normal corporate job. I left that job in 2013 to start doing this like a larger syndication, apartment complexes full time. But I got started back when I was a teenager. I used to work with some contractors that actually flipped houses before it was cool. I got paid. They happened to do a house next to my grandfather's house, and I got paid in like summers to help them clean up job sites. And just whenever I had time, I'd earn my $10 an hour or whatever it was. And I was helping them put up sheetrock and do roofs. And I mean, I've built chimneys. I can build a house from the ground up myself. I know how to do every aspect of house building. I went to school for electrical. So I have that background that's always served me. In my early 20s, when we first got married, you know, our first home was a kind of a longer term flip that worked out really well. We ended up subdividing that lot, and I just kind of tripped through it, but made a good amount of money on that deal, and started eventually buying smaller multis. And I did that for a while. We bought smaller multis for probably about 6 years. And then I was working full time buying the smaller multis that needed renovation. And we were renovating them mostly ourselves, you know, and I kind of just tapped out on what I could do myself. I think I got up to about 30 units. We were running them ourselves. That's me and my family. My kids kind of grew up in this business. So, you know, when they were 15, 16, they were out all summer long replacing pergo floors and units with their friends and all kinds of stuff like that. So they grew up in the business as well. And yeah, so real estate has served me well my entire life, but it was 2014 when I bought my first syndicated larger property deal. And yeah, it's been, haven't looked back. So I just closed just in December of last year on my 20th property.
So Maureen, why did you go into the corporate world and not go into real estate?
Well, so at the time it was my education. I was in electrical. I got into networking, and then I got a job with one of the large telecom companies. And you know, growing my family, then the kids were little, you want that stability. We were trying to make ends meet. I never realized the potential, I guess, of real estate until I took some seminar courses to learn how to raise private money, but just to work with like an investor one-on-one for the smaller, the duplexes, the 3 families, 4 families we were buying. We just got cash strapped. And our credit cards were maxed out. It was just after the recession too. So all the properties we had then we bought for cash flow. So we were fine. You know, they went down in value, but we didn't have to sell. It was, you know, we had long-term mortgage kind of fixed on those.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually stumbled upon the syndication and how people could actually own 100 plus, unit complexes. Why I was just researching, how do I work with an investor for this 3-family I'm trying to buy, but I'm out of money. I don't have the cash myself. And I really started in this with no money. Like the first deals we bought, you could basically sign and they would give them to you in like 2006. So we bought 2 multifamilies like that, 2-unit deals. And then again, as the market tanked, when we were buying 2 and 3 families for 50,000, 60,000 in Connecticut, I was looking to pull some investors in to be able to keep buying them because the cash flow was really awesome at the time.
So
And
what was your epiphany though? What was the epiphany that, oh my gosh, I can make this a livelihood, right? Going from little duplexes to like, the bigger deals and get out of that corporate job.
yeah, so we were, like I said, the max I think was around 30 units when I was running with just the smaller ones with my full-time job. And I hit a wall. I could not spend, and there weren't enough time in the day I used to do real estate all day. And then I was in charge of an Asia project. So I used to work like kind of weird hours in the evening and overnight. And so I'd literally do real estate all day. I'd turn into a pumpkin, go to my network engineering job. And I couldn't do anymore. And I was frustrated. I had a new boss come into my job that I didn't get along with. And like, I'm so grateful for him now for being such a jerk because I could still be at that job, right? If he was.
Were you quiet about it or did he know? Cause like I was very like, when I was in corporate, like they knew nothing. I think I had like 200 units before 300 before we left, or maybe I don't know, whatever it was, but I like kept it quiet. Did you share anything like with the company or no?
It was like closet stuff. So people would come into my office and they'd sit and we'd whisper about, and like a lot of people are into real estate more, but yeah, it's like a closet thing.
I know. That's what I went through too. Yeah.
It's so funny. And you become like this little secret society of like corporate people, like it's like prisoners trying to get out, right? You're scraping the wall. Like, so yeah, we became, definitely did that, but they didn't know openly. And at the time I didn't have any big stuff. It was my own limiting belief, but I didn't think I could really run a larger project. Why I still had a full-time job. I mean, now I could see how it can be done, but at the time, trying to do a lot, not really knowing how to delegate at that time, I wanted
to
dive
into that because I think a lot of folks, like I know I struggle with that. I'd love to hear your perspective early on about not delegating. We call it the I'm a mentality. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do everything, and I'm gets burned out. So can you just share your experience there?
Actually, what taught me the most, and one of the things I started having, I had 3 back surgeries in 3 years. I had one of my legs just totally, like I lost all feeling. Like I needed the back surgery. I had discs that actually blew. And so it was during one of those back surgeries where I had a bunch of renovations for the smaller properties. And I all of a sudden just got taken out. And then I eventually had a back fusion, which took me out even longer. And during each one of these surgeries, I always had projects going on. And it was like an emergency surgery. It wasn't like something planned. So that, like, I used to actually hide my cell phone in the hospital and I'm trying to coordinate contractors. And in the meantime, my kids are like, I don't know, 15 and 17 then. And they're running crews for me. And that like looking back, that was a blessing in disguise because that actually taught me how to delegate. Because before, I mean, I'd be painting this stuff. We'd be literally putting the sheetrock up ourselves. And that really taught me how to utilize a crew. And I remember the deal I got when my back was when I had the back fusion and a longer recovery, it actually turned out to be the best turn, like money wise. We came in under budget, on time. And I was so drugged up, I don't remember a damn thing.
And your kids got a better college education than they ever could anywhere else, right?
They're out there, they did an awesome job. I was so proud of them. But yeah, they're literally running crews for me, making sure, and it came out awesome. So sometimes it takes something like that, right, to disrupt us a little bit to get out of our thinking. But that really was a turning point as far as delegating the I am.
Well, for you, it was an inflection point. We all have those inflection points, right? The first inflection point, you really have to grow out of the person that you were to get to that next level. And most people don't want to do that or don't know how to do that, right? Education times action equals results, right? You're taking massive action, but you didn't get educated how you can take the next step. And we can go into life coaching about limiting beliefs and all, but the 2 limiting beliefs you had were probably no capital, number 1, and probably not a really great market to invest in for multifamilies, number 2, right? How did you overcome those 2 limiting beliefs?
Yeah, so well, the capital, people had saw what we were doing, you know, with credit cards, we were spending the money on the renovations for those first few properties we bought. And you know, they were seeing what we were doing and they were infatuated with it. They thought it was the coolest thing. And it seems like everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, kind of wants to be in real estate. Everybody in the world, like they're all kind of, you know, just they don't always have they can't just always get started in it. They just sometimes can't ever make themselves buy that first property, right? So I just happened to come across a guy that he worked a lot, had a lot of money stored up, wanted to get in real estate, but just never had the time to research it and develop it. And he saw we knew what we were doing and wanted to invest, which led me to the seminars to learn how to work with him correctly. And yeah, which led eventually to the larger properties.
It's so true, because like even this weekend we were talking about, like, you know, my wife had a baby and we were coming out of surgery, and you know, one of the doctors is like nudging me. He's like, "So what you into real estate? What do you think?" And he must have known like about the background. He's like, "What do you think about the market right now?" And like, so I do believe that like secretly there is a lot of folks that you really want to be in the game, because here's the thing, it can provide a lifestyle that like none other, right? You know, you can actually work out. I work from home, you know, 5 days a week if I want to, and it's completely fine. So it's that autonomy and freedom that, you know, most other professions cannot provide for. So,
and Jake, let me add to this too. Also, Maureen didn't get lucky by finding that first person. She took massive action. She just didn't. She said casually, "I ran into him." No, she put her feelers out there. She was doing the work. She was grinding. She was already in the business. It just didn't happen to her. She was taking that massive action, which is what we all need to do, right? And then coupling with the education, going out there and being prepared, right? When the opportunity presents itself, that's what happens. It's not called luck. It's called really hard work, right? Practice makes progress. The more practice you do, the more progress you're going to have. And that's what Maureen ended up having. My next question is, did you fire your boss at a Taco Bell? Because Jake did. So where did you fire your boss?
Chicken quesadilla, baby.
Oh man, where did I fire my boss? No, I ended up taking a package. I probably would have gotten laid off. I was coming out of my third back surgery. I wasn't the best employee at the time, I got to admit. But I do remember driving to work and I just remember driving, I'm just like, I'm not going to swerve. Like if a car comes in front of me, I used to have an hour each way to work. I'm like, I'm not swerving. Like, cause I figure a small fender bender was better than getting, like, that's how my mentality, like I needed to get out of that job to save me. I was in a room with no windows with a bunch of IT people, and some of them were awesome people. So I'm not trying to talk on them.
Talking about Chewbacca all day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So can you just walk everybody through that mindset? Because it's really difficult. I left the restaurant in 2016. Jake left around late 2014, 15. How did you work yourself mentally, and how did you prepare yourself, I guess, money-wise? How did you know when it was right to leave? I mean, you've already painted that kind of picture, but let's talk about like the mechanics of, you know, how you did it.
Well, so and you went back to saying like I took massive action, which I did, right? And while I was learning to raise money for the smaller deals, I was attending seminars. I was learning. I figured if I was going to be responsible for somebody else's money, I had to learn absolutely everything I could about any kind of pitfalls. Like now I had to be even more responsible because it wasn't just my money at stake, it was somebody else's money. So I just started going to these seminars. Now, when I started thinking I could really do this, like I was finding deals that I believed would work, but they didn't pan out for one reason or another. And then this thing, my last back surgery again I knew I had to just make a change. I was just miserable at work. It was killing me. And they offered this package, and I went home to my husband and I said, I'd like to take the package. It was 6 months of our insurance and payment, which was like my salary, which is awesome, right? When else are you going to get that chance? So I went home to my husband and I said, you know, I'd really like to do this. Do you mind if I leave my job? I'm like, the worst thing that'll happen is we'll have to live in one of the multifamilies, because like I do everything. If I'm in it, I'm in it 150%, man. Like I'm not in and out, I'm in it. So, you know, I said, worst case is we'll have to live in one of the multifamilies. So he's like, okay, that's fine, go for it. And I was kind of the breadwinner of the family then too. So it was like, it really impacted. It's not like, oh, my husband had this great job and I was just doing it for fun. Like I think some people are in that situation, but I mean, my income mattered in our family. And so one of my events I went to right after I left my job, I met this young guy named Matt, And he actually rented out his house and bought an RV when he left his job so that his expenses were down. So I went home to my husband. I'm like, Mark, I'm like, guess what? We're not going to have to live in a multifamily. We're going to buy an RV. And I literally went out and bought an RV, like, no joking. And that thing sat in our driveway. But
do you still have it?
I just got rid of it recently, just recently. I actually gave it to my brother because we didn't need it. But that, I always think, like, what's the worst thing that can happen, and how can I deal with that? Number one, what can I do to protect myself against that bad thing from happening, or what I thought was the worst case scenario? So for me, worst case scenario is I was going to try to do this. I wasn't going to be able to close a deal or get traction. And, I'd have to figure it out, and we'd lose our house. I was in it. Like, I was not going to stop once I started. I was just determined.
Burning the ships.
I did leave my job, though. I went to every friggin' networking thing I could go to. Anything to do with real estate. I don't care what kind of real estate it was. I was there. But that's where I met the people that gave me opportunities. Somebody through there introduced me to my first partner, which led to my first deal. So, I would tell your listeners, if you're serious about doing this, you got to show up. You got to put the effort in. Just show up every day. I go to networking events on wholesaling. I'm not a wholesaler, but you never know who you're going to meet, where that's going to lead to. So you just got to show up. Just show up.
How important was it from the support from your husband? Because that's something that's often overlooked, because even though he's not in the business, it's still sharing stories with him. It's still being able to lean on him, because a lot of people don't. We have what we call the get there-itis. Your husband may be saying, hey, you know what, 3 months, we don't have a deal. What's going on here? How important was that, to get that support?
Come on, honey.
That's a tough question. Ooh. Yeah, I didn't tell you guys, we're actually going through a divorce right now after being married 28 years. But anyway, this is like 7 years ago, right? So I do remember him standing in my office and saying, like, I had a deal almost put together and it fell apart. Would have been my first one. And I think it upset him more than me. Like, for me, I'm just like, okay, that didn't work. Move on. Like, let's go again. Like, that's no regrets kind of is the way I like to do things. But I remember he was kind of distraught over that. And I remember him telling me, like, are you done with this? Can I swear on this show? I don't know. He's like, are you done with this real estate shit now? You're going to go back to work and get like a normal job again, like everybody else, and quit doing this? And I'm like, I told him, like, you don't understand. I'm like, I will live under a bridge before I'll go back to my job. Like, once
rat in a cage. Yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't. Like, I don't know what would have happened if I just wouldn't do it. I would have figured out something to do. But that was tough. Especially when your family depends on you. And like, my kids were just graduating from high school at the time. So my response was like, we could have been more fluid. We could have went in the RV if we needed to, and drove down to Florida or something. But I was really all in. And throughout the years, it's kind of up and down, because this business does take a lot. It is hard when you're not in there with your significant other. He kind of came in to help us sometimes, and then he kind of go out and leave. And so that's been a little bit interesting. I do think you need your spouse support. Otherwise, it's just like you're constantly, I guess, feeling guilty about it and spending the time with this. But I knew it's almost like a vaccination, right? You talk about having children and babies, right? So you have to take them, and they're going to get pricked with a needle, and not COVID vaccination. That's a different story, but the normal vaccinations that you need. But you still have to do it, right? It's like a shot in the arm. So I felt this was really a way of saving my family. I didn't want my kids to be slave to the grind. I wanted, as they were approaching, like, getting into college, I wanted to be able to pay for their college. And so I was just giving it all I had to make sure that I can do that.
I can throw a couple of recommendations for people listening. First thing, tell your significant other, listen, I'm stuck in the car an hour each way. That's 2 hours a day. That's 10 hours of my life that are just down the drain. Because I'm with Jake. I work from home, but I've been driving up to Jacksonville the last couple of weeks, once or twice a week. And what a waste of time that is. It's amazing. So paint the picture.
Crazy when you look back on it now, right?
Dude, it's traffic fighter. It sucks. I mean, you're an hour in the car, then the stress, then the traffic, then the wear and tear. There's just a wasting. That's 10 hours a week. Could you imagine if you reclaimed 10 hours a week of your life? You could be reading 2 books a week by delegating that time, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is paint the picture to your spouse, your significant other. I always told my wife, hey, we're going to become financially free. I always tell people my wife was financially free August 30th, 1998 when we got married. So to her, it didn't really matter where I was making the money, right? So I said, you know what, how about we can be as charitable as we want. We can, have friends and family visit us. I can pay. We don't have to worry about, paying for our kids' braces. Oh, now it makes sense. So paint that picture and have a big enough why to your spouse, your significant other. And then like Maureen did, burn the ships. Because if you have a strong enough why, you're going to figure out more or less how to do it. So, I mean, Jake, you want to add anything to that? Because that's really important for the listeners out there. Because you don't want to be wishy-washy.
Even going back a few steps. So I've been back and forth between the NICU this week, the other hospital where my wife was, going back to see my kids. And I'm on the road like 2 hours a day now. And I'm freaking out. By the end of the day, I'm getting angry. I'm getting like ornery and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I used to drive all day. Yeah. And people just accept it. But you're right. You're just lighting your life on fire and you look back, you got nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. And it makes you realize how valuable the moments are. I am so much more productive now than I ever have been, in any corporate job that I have. So you got to really look at how you're spending your time and what's moving the needle. The one thing I did do well when I was in my corporate job is I was a Audible junkie. I mean, I would be going through books. So I was maximizing the hours in it, or I was taking tenant calls, right? Back in the day. So we're making it happen, but you got to find ways to maximize, because if you just sit there and you're listening to 102.1, the hits, and you're going through it and they're talking about the Kardashians and shit, you're throwing your life away. There's more to life if you want it. You gotta go take it.
So I do. I will say too, in this business, so I bought my first deal in June of 2014. And in September of 2014, we closed on my second deal, and he was able to retire at that point. So it was about 4 months from we had enough cash flow after all the investors were paid solid so that he could leave his job. So it happens that fast in this business. The other thing I want to say is, you say driving to work. I used to do that. I listened to constant CDs, audiobooks. So that hour each way, I actually loved it. It was actually turned into like a great part of my day. Yes. I remember I'd get home and I'd get all these ideas, like we could do this and I could raise money this, and this is a different structure we can use and all this stuff. And I remember my husband asked me, he's like, do they have any demotivational tapes you could listen to? I was so motivated.
You can't say that. That sucks the life out of you. You gotta embrace that. And that's that breaks my heart.
Yeah, but having it fun and I think just respect, and it's okay. It's all good. But you do have to have that support. So
let's talk about that first deal. How did you find the first deal? Let's talk about numbers. Let's talk about how you raised the capital, because it's important. It's your first big deal. I mean, breaking through, doing a 2-unit, 4-unit, 6-unit, and then all of a sudden that first deal. I mean, how did it come about?
So it's funny that so I actually, there was a deal before that. I took about 4 false starts on deals before I actually got one across the finish line. But it was the deal that I blew up beforehand that led to actually the good deal. So I said, just kind of keep showing up, whatever happens, right? So I had a deal in Texas I was going to do. I was raising money for it through one of the networking groups. Just a bunch of people in that group had this deal. They needed somebody to raise money. And I knew what I was talking about. I had been operating units myself for, 5 or 6 years then. So I knew every part of that operations part of it, which served me well. But this deal in Texas, was raising money for it. And I'm brand new, never did a large property like that. But I know how these things run, right? So I started going through the operating or the OM for it, or the deck, whatever you want to call it, the presentation. And as I was telling to my investors, like, oh, this is your return, yada, yada, yada. And I started really digging into it. And I'm thinking, like, I see like they're starting here and I see them ending here. But I'm like, I didn't really see any plan in their presentation. And as I would ask the group, I'd ask like one guy, I said, hey, hey, Bill, can you explain to me how we're getting from point A to point B? And I was brand new at this, keep in mind, just still learning it. And he goes, oh, I didn't do that part. Susie did that part. Go ask her. So I go to Susie. He's like, hey, Susie, how do you get from like point A to point B? Like, what's the plan in here? Like, where's this money going? She's like, oh, Betty did that part. And so I went through all 5 partners and nobody knew how, like, I couldn't get an answer. And so I started getting really frantic because here I am. These are supposed to
ride the wave, Maureen. It's okay. It's
exactly.
All right.
They're like, just close it. Just like, why are you asking us these questions? Somebody said. And I was just like, oh my God, like they don't know what the hell they're doing either. I was like, so it really scared me. And here I had all these investors that I'd been talking to for 6 months now, explaining what I'm doing. They're getting their paperwork in. And I had like these days where I just couldn't sleep. I'm like, well, I can't let any investors put money in this deal for one thing, because my investors, because I don't feel confident they know what they're doing. And so then I had to go to the group. And one of the biggest things, especially if you're like kind of bringing money to a deal, you never want to bail on your group, right? That's kind of in the beginning. People say they have money and they don't. And that's like, at the time, I thought I'd be shunned from the whole, I thought it was like the end of my real estate career, basically, when I was going to tell these people who I thought were like, these rock stars, that I wasn't going to bring my investors in. And I had to tell them. And, one of their responses to me was, they said, Maureen, I don't know what your bank account looks like, but mine is light. Close this, we get an acquisition fee, is what they told me. I was like, no, it sucked. But at the same time, I knew then that my gut check was right. Like they weren't the right group to be putting money in and bringing my investors to. So then I had to go tell all my investors we're definitely not coming in this deal. And again, I thought they would lose faith. They had been waiting all this time. And what surprised me is they said, thank you, Maureen. They're like, we appreciate you looking out for us, and we'll wait. It's okay. And we really appreciate you realizing that, because I just explained to them what happened. And so right after that happened, it was like literally 3 days later, I got a phone call and somebody said, hey, there's this group, they're trying to raise money, they're short, but they're really good guys. I told them to call you. I got a call from one of them. And they had a deal in Atlanta. And now through my networking, I met people from all over the United States. So I called a friend of mine from Atlanta. I asked him to check out this deal for me. Within about 45 minutes of the first phone call about the deal and these partners, my friend had gone. He took like 200 pictures for me, uploaded them, talked to the neighbors. We knew where the holes in the fence were. We knew like that the neighbors weren't happy where the garbage was. So within 45 minutes, I reported back to this group that needed some extra money to close. And, I told them I'd fly down now. We knew about the property. So that's really how my first deal came to fruition. It was by losing a deal. I think people saw that I was credible and I was, and I had this money raised. And so we ended up putting it in this second deal with these new partners. And then Andrew became my first partner in this. We don't work together now, but he's since retired. But that was really my first opportunity. It's through a networking group. I never met Andrew, but somebody I met through the networking group knew me and knew him and knew the situation and put us together. So you tell people what you do, and don't take shortcuts in this business either. That's something I do see newbies kind of make a mistake. They put their trust into somebody that maybe they shouldn't put their trust in. So, vet anybody you're working with, make sure forward and backward that they're solid.
Mm-hmm. So before we go to the short answer questions, I wanted to ask that. That's a great tip. Don't take shortcuts. Number two, everyone out there is winging it. When you think they're not winging it, most people are really winging it and figuring it out. Even the ones that look polished on Instagram, it's a learning process. We're constantly learning. But what's the best tip for you, for any real estate out there when they're starting to raise capital? What's the best tip you can give them to start raising capital?
I say know who you're working with, know who's responsible for that. And even for passive investors too, know that the person you're giving the money to actually has a say in it, or who's actually doing it. And then find out all the deals, because knock on wood, I've never lost money on a deal, but some people have, and you don't always hear about that. So I would say definitely vet them. And another plus to being in these networking groups is word travels fast. So if somebody's not doing something right, the networking group kind of gets wind of it pretty quickly if you ask around. And we always want to protect newbies coming up. I hate to see someone ever lose their opportunity to succeed at this career because they made a mistake early on by getting involved with the wrong person. So just always know who you're working with. Go have drinks with them. I've seen people after a beer or two, they rip the waitress apart because she forgot their fork or something. Like, I don't want to work with that guy, So really get to know the people you're working with. It's important.
The beer sniff test, Jake. Love it.
Dude,
can't go wrong with that.
Test. Yes. I'm just so happy for you that you walked away from that deal, because you're it's your first one. You want to get one done, and everyone, to Gino's point earlier, had to get their itis. But you have to, and the reason Gino and I've had such a successful relationship is because you have to find people with a similar moral compass. And the fact that you were willing to walk away, if I was your investor at that time, I would have appreciated the shit out of it, because I know you're not going to put the capital at risk just to get a fee. And when you're out there, and Gino talked about the sniff test, if you have good morals and you hear somebody talking about just being in it to get a rip, get an acquisition fee, their bank, get away from that. Okay. Cause
Mhm.
that ship is going to, go down. Okay. So I think, Gino had something to say as well.
I just wanted, before we go to the short answers,
Yeah.
I want to reiterate what I always say to people. No deal is better than a bad deal.
Amen.
Trust me. It's the ROE. It's a return on effort. If you're stuck in a bad deal like I've been for a decade, and you see your property manager calling, and that will suck the life out of you. So it doesn't matter what act fees you're getting up front, what cash flow you think you're going to get. If it's a bad deal, trust me, you do not want to be involved in it. And if you have bad partners on top of that, it makes it even worse. So please be careful.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to level up. Like, just waiting for that right person that you do get along with. And actually that deal in Texas, I wouldn't have earned anything. They said, "Oh no, Maureen, we already gave it all away." So I was just that hungry. Like, I just wanted to be part of a deal to experience it. Like, I was at the point, if I earned one penny, it would have been, I just wanted to get my name on something, be able to go like tour it, and like, it's my property, or at least I have a piece of it. And it wasn't even that. It was just kind of, so be careful of I think sometimes when you get into these networking groups too, sometimes people see newbies that maybe have potential and they try to like latch onto you. So just be careful of that too. But really, make sure it feels right. Ask whatever groups you're part of, how the people are. And if they have that reputation, that's a good one,
And don't force it, like you're saying, basically. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community, has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we are back. I want to hear on the personal growth side of things. What is your best habit for success?
Best habit for success. I would say,
besides not doing deals with creeps.
Yeah, that's definitely rule number one. Trust your instinct, but like, just trust but verify. I always just don't be afraid to ask too many questions. And just show up, and you have to take part of it. Sometimes I think people are thinking that they can get in this business and just like, once they close, like, it's over, right? Knowing that just closing the deal is 10% of the deal. Exactly. That's when the work starts, and, really know who you're working with. But personal best is just, I'll try to keep on a schedule, try to, like I said, just show up. I think as far as being present, working with good people, that is a big thing with me. If I have any conflict, if I catch somebody in a flat out lie, like, I just won't work with them, because it's too much energy. I never want to waste that energy, like butting heads or worrying about partners or people I'm working with. You always want that energy, like, to move forward. And so, a lot of waste if you're not working with
or a lack of responsiveness, right? Like, if you're emailing somebody or texting, they're not getting back, like, done, see ya. Next.
I think, Maureen, also for you, it's a lot. I think I'd love to add this about you. It's persistence. I think persistence is a really important habit. You don't quit. So if the first deal doesn't work, you go to the second one. The second one doesn't work, you go to the third one. The third one doesn't work, you go to the fourth one. People usually quit after the first or second try. And that's the problem, that they just quit. They don't have a strong enough why, but your persistence will ultimately lead to your success if you keep doing it. Because I think your success is your results are a lagging indicator of your success, right? Because you can be doing stuff, and all of a sudden you have no results. But then all of a sudden when those results come, there's your success. But it takes a while for that to happen. And if you're not persistent as you are, you'll never end up being there, right?
Yeah, I remember saying like, I'm either gonna figure this out or I'm gonna die, but I'm not stopping till one of those two things happen. And that was literally my mindset. Like I was not giving up. I'd either be dead or I'd figure it out. But I was gonna keep going until one of those two things happened.
But that's
so
the
luckily
difference.
I figured it out.
That's the difference though, because so many people, they look at it and we talk about limiting beliefs, and like, here's this multifamily large apartment owner world that's a pie in the sky, and they just can't like see themselves being the owner of that. And they quit. And I think that is the biggest thing stopping people from getting into this business, because it's not rocket science. It's clearly not. I mean, I had no background in this, you know, and Gino had, you know, much more experience than I did, but ultimately you have to just keep coming back, taking your at-bats until you get it done. And, you know, she's living proof of it. So I think it's great, because I can say it all day. And it's like, sometimes people are like, yeah, Jake, yeah. But hearing it from you and your story, I think really resonates with people. So I appreciate that.
And appreciate too, like the small, as you're at this all the time, I said, just showing up is number one. And as you're at this, like in the beginning, I remember being intimidated to call brokers, right? Everybody, their first broker call.
Everybody is.
Like, I used to tell people don't worry, there's what they call attitude adjustment button, but you just hit the hang up. Be like, oops, you don't know what to say, just hang up. And then you just call them back, say, oh, we got disconnected. Just compose yourself. Like, don't be scared.
So Maureen, that's important what you say, because we have so many students. This is why we created the Jake and Gino community, for that reason. 80% of our students, when they start, they're afraid to call brokers. It's a limiting belief. So to have a coach be your role model and just role play that call is worth its weight in gold, because all of a sudden you have fears that are like, you're seeing the other person on the other side, he's just another person. He or she's another person. And you're able to role play that and figure out what you need to say and questions you need to ask. That's so important as part of your education. So don't downplay that, because I'm sure you probably wasted a couple months saying, am I going to do this? Have I done this right? Have I burned this bridge? All these negative thoughts in your mind. But if you have somebody there holding your hand and actually helping you out, Jake and I didn't have that. I mean, we must have sounded really
I was
dumb.
a naive idiot though. So so here's the truth, a little story. Like I thought, like, you know, I'm a little aggressive, you know, athlete my whole life. I thought the broker was like supposed to come serve me, and I didn't know about this whole posture thing. So I got kicked out of brokers' offices early on, because I was like, what do you mean? Give me the deal. And I was like pushing them and kind of being a dick and treating them like, you know, like, you're the sales guy, give me what I want. And so I had to actually back up, because I was too far the other way and didn't realize there was like this whole mutual respect thing, right? You know, it's like, but so I think so many people, like, you know, don't take that role either, because that actually slowed us down for probably a year for me being an idiot. But so many times we hear people come in the community and they're like literally afraid, like, oh, he's gonna think I'm gonna ruin. Just be polite, make the calls. And here's she keeps saying, show up, get on site and build that rapport. Yes. Okay, it's sales both ways, right? Build that rapport, show them that you're credible, and then the deals will start to flow. So
one of the things I like to tell newer people getting into this too is, if you're competing against a 300 unit property, you have different competition. But if you're looking at a property that's, you know, I'd say 125 units or less, the brokers are usually a little bit easier with you. It's more of what they call mom and pop kind of buyer. It's not this sophisticated institution that's on the property, right? So they can be kinder. And like I was telling, like, I kind of fibbed a little bit where I said, you know, me and a couple of my friends, you know, we own these small portfolios in Connecticut. We want to kind of get that together and go buy. We want to like sell those and buy something in Florida or wherever I happen to be looking for a property. So I never played the game of the sophisticated person in the beginning, you know, where I didn't, you know, so I was afraid, if I said the wrong word or asked a stupid question, like I just went with that story. And then I think they were kind of kinder. So I think the brokers are kinder too, if you're looking at 60 units, 75 units, 90 units, because they don't have, that's who they're kind of dealing with is they call it, and I'm not trying to cut on anybody, but they actually call it unsophisticated mom and pop buyers. Like that's who's buying in that range is.
But that's a great place for people to start, because here's the deal. You can buy a couple mom and pops, refi them out, roll the money into another deal, or flip them. And you don't have to get into a 200 or 300 unit deal on your first one. Starting with a 20, 30, 40 even, doing a few of those, you can get the capital to get into the bigger stuff if that's where you eventually want to be. And you look, you're dealing with less money, you're building your credibility, you know, do the work. You know, there's nothing wrong. I mean, Gino and I started out with a 25 unit. It worked out very well for us. So
yeah, you cut your teeth on smaller ones too. It's a little bit more manageable. I'm very grateful for starting on with the 2s and 4s like I did. When I was getting into, I'm like, man, I wasted so much time on the little stuff. But in hindsight, I never did, because It's the same thing. Like if your property management company saying they can't rent a unit, it's like, well, did you do this, this, and this, and this? Like you learn all those things going, like, you know, how to renovate, where to put the money correctly. These are all the things you learn by going through that journey. It's so
Your
important.
confidence went up and you believed in yourself, right?
Exactly. And getting that first unit is when I left my job there with the telecom company, I remember a guy that everybody respected. Like if he had that troubleshooting thing, it was get done. He's just an awesome guy. And my last day, he told me, he's like, Maureen, he's like, I give you a lot of credit. He goes, I always wanted to get into real estate. And he goes, I just couldn't do it. My wife would never support me. And he's like, I just can't do it. And man, he would have been killer at it. And so a lot of people, it's that first deal. Like if you could just get that first extra single family that you're going to rent out, or that first multifamily, 2-family, that's such a huge leap over what 95% of the people ever do. So yeah.
Love that.
I know what you're going to say, Gino.
You know, I don't know what I was going to say. What was I going to say?
Because Gino's always, his thing is always, we don't know very many people that have done just one deal.
That's right.
When you get that first deal done, it usually snowballs after that. And
I like that.
You know, I'm like, come on, bro. Where you at, Gino? Come on. I'm usually like your mind reader here. We do this every once in a while, you know? Come
Thanks. I like that, Jake. Thank you.
How about a book, Reco? You said, you like to educate yourself. What, anything you've read recently that has benefited your life?
Ooh, yeah, there's a lot of them. Think and Grow Rich, I think, is a classic book that everybody should go through. A lot about mindset. I do believe in that, like staying positive. It's hard to accomplish things if, you know, you're around negative people or have a negative mindset. So definitely work on that. I'm constantly, like, I have so many books. I'm always listening to something new. My latest one is something called Boundaries, just as a female, as a mom, as, you know, we have kids we're raising, is like, how nice are you to them, but you without crippling them. And like, there's all these things. So this boundary book is more of a mindset book than a business book. But one of the first real estate books I read that I really liked was the ABCs of Real Estate Investing by, it's like Ken Mack something. Yeah, that's the one. I thought that was a great book, and I refer that to people sometimes.
He's a sharp dude. Yeah.
Just to understand the basics of it. But just feed your brain, man. If you have that ride to work, listen to audiobooks. If you have trouble tuning it down, like to go to sleep, I used to have trouble shutting my brain off. But instead of watching TV or some, you know, zone out stuff, listen to an audiobook till you go to sleep. Just always try to feed your brain, and it keeps you motivated. Again, showing up, right? It keeps your brain showing up at that point, learning new things, new ways of doing it. The way I looked at it too, anything I learn like that, I feel it's like a tool in my tool belt. I'll have that forever. No matter what happens, I'll have that new skill I learned or that thing I heard about. I don't know when I might need it, but I'll have it forever. Nobody could take that stuff away from you, right?
Elaborate on that, because we spoke about development and some of the stuff that you get into now, prior to the show. You want to talk about your projects there a little bit?
Yeah, so we're doing some new development. It's with the pricing of what we can buy. Kind of, we're value add buyers is what they call people that, you know, buy properties to improve them. And with the pricing now, for just a few thousand more per door, maybe 10 or 20,000 more a door, we can get into new development. And it's something that I haven't done yet. We've built some smaller stuff in Nashville and things like that. But this is the first, it's 168 units we're building and then 240 units. So we have those developments going in right now. And that's a new frontier for me. And I'm excited. Like, I love learning new things and growing. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? So it's a new skill that will be able to serve me forever. And, you know, and real estate has cycles. I say we don't create the market, we work within the market. So that's just so key to understand. Sometimes what we're doing stops working at some point. It's not the right market to do that in necessarily, whether it's location or timing. So you just kind of, I call it duck and weave, like you're always ducking and weaving, like, what are we going to do now, right? Got to keep moving forward. So development is my new frontier now.
Or G-Father, she's taking what the defense is giving her, right?
That's right.
Very nice. Very nice.
So what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you and learn more about your company?
Sure. So my website is there's the number 4 and then MREI.com. So 4M, which is the company, REI for real estate investments, www.4mrei.com. And there's a contact us. Just reach out if you have any questions. or anything we could help you with. I always say too, I never mind answering questions or giving, people information on areas. We're in Indiana, we're in Georgia, we're in Tennessee and Texas right now. So yeah, anywhere we can help, you just got to catch us. But love the business and love helping people along the way.
G-Father, what say you?
Well, let's recap the podcast. Let's recap the shows. Maureen got into real estate, I guess at a young age, right? She was cutting grass. She was doing sheetrock. She was doing little singles and doubles in Connecticut. And she graduated college, went to work for IT. An hour commute each way, right? And at one point, it starts draining on you. And she's saying, I got to get into these bigger deals. I've got these 30 units. It's killing me. I'm a real estate mogul by night. IT by day. I'm like the black sheep of the family. I mean, I don't know what to do here. I've got to make a decision. And one day she goes home to her husband and says, listen, I want to do this real estate thing. I want to quit the job. And, after 3 back surgeries, she decides to, fire her boss, not at a Taco Bell, but she fires her boss. And she ends up going and start really taking the education route, right? Really going to seminars, reading books, going to meetups, going to REA, the real estate investment meetups, all of those, and immersing herself, right? Because all of a sudden you're going to start getting into bigger deals. And, her first deal is not successful. She doesn't get into it. It's the second one. It's the third one, and finally hits it on the fourth one. And then, the rest is history, going into it and, scaling up from 100 units, getting into different markets. And now she's here today and getting into development. So it's a constant growth, right? From getting to college to the IT job, to the small multifamilies, to the larger multifamilies, and now into development. So it's really been an amazing story.
And her kids got a free hands-on college education.
That's right.
You can't forget about that. Are they in the business now or no?
They are. My son is watching over the Indiana portfolio. My daughter's in the Georgia portfolio.
That's awesome.
And I got to say, when I was in college, I had a 4.0 in the class I took, but I actually never finished. I took my certificates and my degrees and got the computer networking things that I needed to get. And I actually never graduated from college. I never completed
it's
it.
kindling. So you don't need that.
I think it probably would have harmed me from thinking outside the box. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, you can do this with just tenacity. Just stay at it. Keep your nose clean. Just like meet the right people, being around the right people and the right attitude. And yeah, anybody can actually do this.
Amen. Really appreciate this today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Maureen.
Thanks. Great meeting you guys. Thank you.